If you've listened to earlier episodes or read previous blog posts, you know that one of the major to-do items once your child is at least 2 years away from aging out of school is applying for adult services. This was something that surprised us. Even though Elle was found eligible for DDS services as a minor, he had to apply again for adult eligibility. Before you can make decisions about adult programming, self-direction, or supports, you need to know which adult agency your child is actually eligible for. And this is where the 688 referral comes into play. If you are watching on YouTube, I am going to be showing various websites and documents. If you are listening only, don't worry. I will put all of the resources in the show notes. The website that I'm on right now is the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Chapter 688 webpage. The 688 referral is initiated by the school district at least 2 years before your student is expected to leave the public school system and end special education services. This referral is documented in the IEP within the transition planning form and is sent to the adult agency or agencies the team believes may be appropriate. In Massachusetts, those agencies typically include the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, now going by the name of Massability, or the Department of Mental Health, DMH. So, as I said, the referral is documented in the student's IEP within the transition planning form. So let's take a look at where you will find that in Massachusetts. So I have pulled up a blank IEP form for Massachusetts. You can also get this from the Massachusetts DESE website if you ever wanted to take a look at a blank IEP. And what I'm going to do is I am going to scroll to the transition section. And you will know where that is because when you get to it, you will notice that, for starters, it says post-secondary transition planning, but it also has a green dotted line. In the old IEP format, this transition planning form was found at the very end of the IEP. When they made the updates to the IEP here in Massachusetts in 2024, they actually moved this post-secondary transition planning form in the middle of the IEP, which I personally love because I think a lot of times IEP teams were thinking of this transition planning form as an afterthought, where the reality is once your student turns 14, this transition planning form becomes the basis of the information that is going to go into the IEP as far as accommodations, modifications, goals and objectives, benchmarks. So I personally like that it's now in the middle. So I'm here in the beginning of the post-secondary transition planning form. And if you scroll here, you will see there is an area that says the projected date of graduation or program completion. So this is a date that the team is going to put in when your student is anticipated graduating. So again, going back to the 688 referral should be done should be done at least 2 years before your student is expected to leave public school. This is the date that your team is looking at. So it's always important to look at that so there's not any confusion as to when you think they're leaving public school versus when the public school thinks they're leaving public school. Then if we scroll down, you will see community and interagency connections. And this is where they are going to put any agencies that the student is currently receiving services from. As I said before, for Elle, he was getting DDS services as a minor. So if he was receiving any support from them that was related to school, that agency would have been listed in here. If I keep scrolling down, you will see they do have their own section called Transition to Adult Service Agency or Agencies, the 688 referral. What I like about this is it really just spells it out. Before, it mentioned it, but not with the exact detail of it. Now it's very clear. Is the student within 2 years of exiting special education services? Clear cut, yes or no? If yes, has the team discussed whether the student meets the criteria for a 688 referral? Again, very clear cut, yes or no? Has a 688 referral been submitted? If yes, when was the date it was submitted? If no, is there a date it will be submitted? So basically, what that means is that maybe we've discussed it, but we're still a little outside. It's not quite like if your IEP is 2.5 years before they age out, and the next time you meet, it'll be a year and a half. You can discuss the 688 referral, and you could say, we've discussed it. We've decided that yes, the student does meet the criteria, but I'm not submitting it now. I'm going to submit it next year at a later date. This is also where you're going to check off the team has determined that the student does not meet the criteria. And then the last box, if yes, please identify the agency. This is where the school is going to write down to which agency the 688 referral is going to go to. Okay, now another document that I want to show you, if we go back to the DESE website, is they have a link for guidelines for referral. So let's take a look at that form. So in this table, it is going to tell you the student profile, what the corresponding DESE disability category is, and then what the transitional agency is. So this is a table that your team should be referencing and discussing with you in reference to that question on the IEP. As I said earlier, the 688 referral form is submitted by the school, but if you want to take a look at what the blank 688 referral form looks like, here it is. So what it's going to do is the top is going to be all of the student information, which is taken off of the IEP. The school district program information, again, taken off of the IEP. The referral submission, and again, you are going to send it only to one department. So again, this is where the discussion becomes critical, is that the school is going to want to send the 688 referral form to the agency that they feel will have the most services for that student. Another piece of information that is helpful for parents is these Chapter 688 Referral Parent Student Brochure. So let's take a look at that. I'll open that up. And this is put together by the Federation for Children with Special Needs. It's one of their tips brochures. And here it's just going to give you, again, a brief description of what the Chapter 688 referral is, who should have it, why it's important. And the second page, it's going to tell you, again, the steps to the Chapter 688, talking about it with the school. Again, with the new IEP, you have those check boxes, yes or no. The school is going to submit it electronically at least 2 years. The parent or guardian must sign the referral before it's submitted. That was that bottom part for you. And if they are not able to decide on one adult agency, the referral should be submitted to the Bureau of Transition Planning, and they will select the agency that they feel best fits the student needs. Again, learning about the adult agencies, this gives you links, which has more information on those different agencies. So if you want to take a deeper dive from the table, you can go and get that information. And then what the family is responsible for after they make it. Once they make that referral, usually that adult service agency is going to send you a letter saying, hey, we've received a 688 referral for your child. Here are the next steps. So for us, Elle was referred to DDS. Within a couple of months of the 688 referral form being submitted, we received a letter saying that they have received it. Here are the next steps that are part of the application process. This is what you need to do. And again, they even stated here, this one thing you really need to remember is that the 688 referral is not the application and it is not an approval. This is just the stepping stone. This is this is that bridge between public school and adult services saying, hey, during our IEP meetings, we've had these discussions. We have determined that this student, once they age out of public school, is going to need adult services. And during our team meeting, we have determined that this is the appropriate agency that this person should apply for. Then you still need to, as a family, apply. And this is the other important thing. The school's responsibility is in making the 688 referral. As far as the application process, that falls on the parent. Now, that doesn't mean that the school cannot help you. We needed to submit copies of his IEP. We needed to submit the most updated 3-year reevaluation testing. That was all information that we were able to get digital copies from the school, and they were able to supply that for us. But as far as physically sending that information to DDS, the school is not doing that. They will send it to you. You then need to send it to DDS. Making that appointment for the interview, you are doing that as the family. So, our key takeaways with the 688 referral is make sure that it is being discussed as part of the transition planning within the IEP. Make sure that you have reviewed the eligibility criteria for the different departments. Make sure that all of the sections within the IEP are checked off, including which agency and the date, or which date the application is going to be submitted to. And make sure that you keep an eye out for either a paper letter, email from those agencies. And I would say if you haven't heard within 6 months that they have at least received the referral, you know which agency it has been submitted to. You as a parent should reach out to those agencies, again, using these links here about the learn about the different adult agencies, to reach out to them to follow up to make sure that they did receive the 688 referral. Sometimes things get lost electronically. Sometimes things, get lost. It just happens. So you then want to make sure, if you do need the school to resubmit a 688 referral, that you're not letting it go too far. And again, the most important thing is that the 688 referral starts the adult service process. It is not an approval. It is not an application. It is simply the referral to the adult agency.